Hey everybody, welcome to Facebook Live Ask Admissions. My name's Jordan Stevenson. I'm the Director of Student Recruitment, and we have some very special guests with us today from Student Disability Services. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Today is a great day to ask any questions you have about how KSU will take care of you if you need student disability services. So I'll turn it over to y'all.
Hi, my name is Bonna Lanation. I work in Student Disability Services, specializing in the deaf and hard of hearing population. And welcome to KSU.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Fawn. I am the Assistant Director of Student Disability Services.
Awesome, and they came super prepared in their black and gold, proud and bold. So y'all are outshining me by far. You would normally, but especially today, outshining me. So well done on your outfits, looking good. We've got news from the nest. So it's just a wild time right now, period, in the world, in the nation, in Georgia, here in Metro Atlanta. So there should be a lot of news from the nest, but I'm just gonna focus on some key things coming up, all right? So for fall 2020, if you're an admitted student out there and you have not registered for new student orientation and you're coming to KSU, which I would hope that's where you are right now. One, if you're admitted and you're coming to KSU, you're watching Facebook Live. If you're not coming to KSU, what are you doing watching our Facebook Live? You should watch somebody else's Facebook Lives. I'm just kidding, they don't have them. So no, I'm just teasing. But if you're coming to KSU, and you're admitted, but you haven't registered for new student orientation, you absolutely have to go to new student orientation. So COVID-19 forced us to do a ton of things virtually, right? Like more Facebook Lives, and hopefully y'all out there have been enjoying these Facebook Lives and finding them meaningful and valuable to you. So like that, we've pushed all of our orientations for the summer to virtual format or online, interchangeable words here. And for a lot of our students, that's been an incredible way of doing their new student orientation to make it much more accessible for them. They don't have to leave their home. They don't have to fight the traffic to get to campus and things like that. But this has really been a good experience. We've been hearing some really good things back from our students that have attended our new student orientations online. So if you're looking to come for fall, you need to go to new student orientation so you can register for classes. That's one of the biggest things that you do at new student orientation. So all of our first year students out there, freshmen, transfer freshmen, you've got to go to new student orientation. If you're a transfer student coming into the university, going to new student orientation lets you register before everybody else that's transferring to the university. So it behooves you as a transfer student to attend new student orientation. Also, it's just good for you because you need to know more about KSU as you transition, and I would argue especially during this time of COVID-19 where we're doing so much more online, not able to do as much stuff in person. You need to know what's going on here at the university, how to really use the resources, how to find out where the resources are located, like Student Disability Services, right, which we're going to talk about a lot today. And that's going to happen at new student orientation. And then the big perk for transfer students is getting to register at the end. So make sure you are signing up for new student orientation. Big reminder out there is if you haven't submitted your FAFSA, now's the time to do it. Stop delaying. You're already past the deadline, to be honest. You just need to get your FAFSA in as soon as possible. So big plug for financial aid. We have an incredible Office of Scholarships and Financial Aid. Please, please, please get your FAFSA in as soon as you can. Another great resource if you're looking for scholarship dollars right now, Scholarship Universe. That's on our financial aid website. It's on the scholarship website. Scholarship Universe is a resource for KSU students to log in, and you as a new student can log in. If you're a current student, you can log in as well. You just need a net ID and password. Log in, look for external scholarships that have been vetted by Kennesaw State. So there's so many different scholarship resources out there. There are quite a few that are legitimate, and then there's a ton that are not legitimate. So please use a legitimate scholarship search engine. We've done all the legwork for you by partnering with Scholarship Universe. You can get to it there from our financial aid website, and I'm sure we'll drop the link here in the Facebook Live chat as well. So do not delay on that. Because you're loving doing so many things virtual, now you can take that as sarcastic or facetious if you like. So it's all up to you how you view what I just said. But because we're loving doing so many things virtual, we have additional Facebook Live sessions for you. So a big one coming up on July the 15th is Parent and Family Programs. Going to be on Zoom at 11 a.m. and then we're going to have Greek Life with our orientation Instagram Live also on that day at 4 p.m. on July 15th. So July 15th, a lot of stuff with new student orientation, with parent and family programs, with Greek Life. So if you want to learn about all those different things, July 15th, watch out. You can actually save the event here in Facebook. That's part of the beauty of following Kennesaw State University on Facebook. When you're logged in, you can save the event so it saves into your profile. We'll give you a notification, that little notification bell in the upper right-hand corner of your Facebook profile screen, and that will remind you that you have an event coming up. You need to jump in and ask live questions. So yeah, that's all my news from the nest. Not so bad, right? So we're in a weird lull time in admissions where our application is closed for fall. But now we're getting ready to plan for the next fall. So we don't really have any downtime, but it's just maybe a couple weeks of trying to gather our breath and then start again. But I'm excited to have y'all on Facebook Live with us today to hopefully reach out and make some of our students and our families feel comfortable with the services that you provide. They may not even know all of the services that you provide, so I want to make sure we talk about that today. How to access those services and the resources that you have. And hopefully at the end they feel comfortable with Kennesaw State, whether it's the student coming to Kennesaw State or it's the family, and maybe we even have juniors out there in high school, or we have some transfer students or adult learners that need your services. So let's talk about, what does Student Disability Services provide to students in a nutshell?
The elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Student Disability Services, also referred to as SDS, is the first point of contact for individuals with disabilities to disclose and register for accommodations. In addition, our office provides faculty and staff training. We provide assistance with learning assistive technologies and academic coaching, which is an added benefit for students that register to receive services through our office.
And you mentioned something, Katie, about working with faculty and staff as well. Have you seen an uptick in requests for your services from faculty, particularly as we've gone online for the remainder of the spring? That's over now. We're fully online for summer, and we'll have more online classes here for the fall. Have you seen an uptick in asks of faculty and things that they could be doing better to support our students?
And yes, with the transition in March to online, we have relied heavily on experts within DLI, Distance Learning Innovations, and they have been at the forefront of assisting faculty with ensuring accommodations can be put in place with their online curriculum.
Nice. We've got a question already. Awesome.
Oh.
Fantastic.
All right, so we do have one question about our services from Disability Services. Are there resources for individuals with autism spectrum disorders?
Yes.
Yes.
Short answer, yes. So the Board of Regents has kind of identified different categories of disabilities along with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so if you have a qualifying disability of any type, and Katie probably could go down the list of all of the categories, but we definitely have services available for anyone with any qualifying disability.
And autism spectrum disorders is one of those categories. It is important to note, however, having a diagnosis does not automatically equate having a disability in the educational setting. So make sure to visit our website, sds.kennesaw.edu, and review content in our Getting Started tab.
Nice. Where's that on the website? Where's the tab located?
It's on the left side. There are different categories there, and on the left side, it's maybe the first or second tab that's getting started. And then underneath that, there are several different categories. There's a general getting started overview. We have our intake process there. We have documentation guidelines, and those are specific to each disability category. We have information about referrals for evaluation. So if you have evaluations that are very old, typically we need them to be within 3 years. So they have to be pretty current in order for us to be able to utilize them to look at if there is a qualifying disability. And so if you haven't had those done recently, then we actually can refer you to the Regent Center for Learning Disorders, and we can get testing through them. And it's much less expensive to go through them than it is to go through other private psychologists, and those tests can run thousands of dollars. This partnership that we have with them is actually $500. So it's much cheaper, and we have a relationship with them, and we have a referral packet, and all of that is also on the website.
Awesome. Bonnie, would you repeat that one more time for people out there? Because I'll say from an admission standpoint, and I work with all of our recruiters, we go out into the high schools, and it's pretty regular that we will hear from a high school counselor about a specific student. The student has an IEP, the family's been working with the high school the entire time, and how does that IEP translate to coming to college, right, and the services that they could be provided through student disability services. But particularly what will come up is the student was evaluated in 9th grade. And they've had this IEP their entire time in high school. And I hear the horror stories about how much they have to pay to have the student reevaluated, and what kind of burden that is on a family.
Yeah.
Especially when they've already been dealing with a lot of other things that they're paying for, and the constant need for resources right now, especially right now. So if you would not mind, repeat that one more time for our families out there, because I think that's an incredible bit of information that we need to make sure. And we'll post links to like SDS that you were talking about, as well as the Getting Started link here in the Facebook Live too, so people have immediate access.
Yeah, so the testing is a very cumbersome thing, and I think it's really difficult for families who are dealing with disabilities to constantly be doing the testing. There are certain disabilities that can change over time. And so as a student develops over time, their needs may change. What limits them in the classroom may change. And so that's kind of the reasoning behind needing current evaluations. We get some that have come in and they're like from elementary school. Well, what an elementary schooler needs is very different than what you need in college. And so some of that is just making sure that we have the most current information so that we really can figure out what barriers there are to access, and then how can we mitigate those things. So in order to do that, and what the university system has done is created this Regent Center for Learning Disorders, and they do testing with students within the university system, and they will do it for $500. And if you know anything about the testing process, that is incredibly reasonable. And they do it in two payments, so you don't even have to have the full $500 right away. You can do $250 at the beginning, and then the other $250 once you're set and go into the appointment.
It's also important to note that not every disability requires an updated evaluation. There are some visible disabilities where individuals can start with their healthcare provider to complete that process.
Yes, I would add to that things that don't change over time. For example, if you have a hearing loss, which is the area I specialize in, if you have been deaf your whole life, if you have had a hard of, if you can't hear, you can't hear. So those types of disabilities that don't change over time, we don't need as update, if it's a condition that's, we call it stable over time, then we don't need necessarily very current documentation, or we can get it from a healthcare provider. But certain learning disorders, and all of that is on our website. There's a documentation section in that Getting Started tab. There's a section on documentation, and that gives specifically what we need for each disability category. So if you're unsure if you need something current or not, that's a great place to start.
Perfect. So absolutely what I'm hearing, just to continue to clarify, before a student or family reaches out to your office, start there with the Getting Started tab.
Yes.
And that's going to really help them feel comfortable with what they're going to need. And if they have questions, then reach out. But it sounds like, yeah, that tab is probably pretty robust.
Super helpful, yeah.
Awesome, cool. Well, we have another question.
Great.
All right, so we've had a couple of people ask about online classes. Can you talk a little bit about different class options for delivery style?
Delivery style, particularly for fall, or are they asking
For
about fall specifically? Okay, cool. So this is where, one, I'm going to give a very, I'll call it a hard disclaimer. Any updates that are coming through the university about COVID-19 and our response to COVID-19 for fall 2020, so this upcoming semester, you will find on our coronavirus website, coronavirus.kennesaw.edu. Boom, easy. So our return to campus plan is there on the coronavirus website. You can see the history of how we've developed this plan. But specifically for fall, we will have what we've frankly always had, to be honest. I talked about this, I think, last time, and they're blurring together. I can't remember if it was a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live, or or just I was talking to my wife. I have no idea. Just kidding. Actually, it was something with Facebook Live or Instagram Live, saying Kennesaw State has been delivering online courses, fully online courses, for over 20 years. So this is something we're not new at. We didn't have to throw into place this past spring like some universities absolutely did have to do this, where they had to turn online, and it was a very hard turn for them. We have experience with online for over a third of our life as an institution. So we will have fully online courses this fall. We will have hybrid courses this fall. We will have in-person courses that are socially distanced. So much like we're sitting here, we're more than 6 feet apart from each other. But in the classroom, the University System of Georgia has come out and said, and that's for all public institutions in the state of Georgia, that they will require face masks. That includes us when we're inside of buildings, when we're in the classroom space. But when we're in our own offices, like when I sit in my office at my computer, I will not have to wear a face mask. But there's many times where I am wearing a face mask just because I care about my neighbor. I care about my office mates, right? I care about the people that I'm around on a daily basis. And so we all came in today with masks on, and a matter of fact, our porcelain Scrappy here has a mask on as representation. But that's a little bit about fall. We will have traditional in-person classes. One thing I love about Kennesaw State is we are here to meet the needs of our students and as quickly as possible innovate. So we have explored this entire campus. Matter of fact, we're in a building right now most people don't come to. It's called the KSU Center. And this is a large room that would normally hold over 80 people. It's more of a presentation room, sometimes used for continuing education. We've had our high school council workshops in here. And normally this would be a room that's used just for those types of things. But most likely we're going to be using this as a classroom this upcoming fall. So we've looked at so many different places on campus to host what would be traditional in-person classes, but using socially distanced policies and class procedures, I'll say, to be able to still have some of those courses that absolutely need to be delivered in person. So we're getting creative. We've got some really exciting plans coming out very soon, but we'll have a big mixture, as we always have had, of different options in terms of in-person, hybrid, fully online, evening classes, weekend classes, so all sorts of stuff. I mean, don't know how much you know about Kennesaw State out there. Hopefully you know a decent amount because you're watching our Facebook Live. But we're an institution that's in a metropolitan city with almost 38,000 students. Lord willing, we'll have over 38,000 this fall. And this is a wooden chair, by the way, so I just knocked on it. But we are ready to meet the needs of our students and have been for quite some time.
Then we have one more question.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the out-of-state waiver application process and then when students are notified if they receive a scholarship?
Yeah, sure. So there's two different types of out-of-state waivers. So I know sometimes they're confused. There is our F1 student visa waiver that is for international students, and then there's the actual out-of-state tuition waiver. So students apply for the out-of-state tuition waiver. The application opens in the fall, and it closed on March the 1st. So that was actually the deadline to apply for the out-of-state tuition waiver, and it is a competitive process to be considered. We've already notified the first round of students that have been offered the out-of-state tuition waiver, and we're in the process of reviewing a second round. So what happens after the first round, we're able to award a certain amount of waivers, and as we receive notice back from the students that are accepting the waiver and saying, I'm coming to Kennesaw State, it's much like accepting a scholarship. You kind of view it the same way. As we determine the number that we still have available after this first round, we go back and review a second round of waivers. So matter of fact, I'm in charge of the out-of-state tuition waiver. Will Morandi in the admissions office is in charge of the F1 visa waiver. So at this point, if you have not been notified yet, you could be in the second round, but the first round, people have already been notified. Yeah, another question.
And then we do have another question for Student Disability Services. Do you take out-of-state evaluations in 504 plans, or will students need to be retested in Georgia?
And I would say when in doubt, when you are completing the intake form, upload what you have, because there can be timing that's involved. It can be the level of testing that rules out that evaluation. But if you upload what you have, we will thoroughly review it and email you back, the student back with next steps.
Nice. That makes me think about, I think a lot of times there are, and y'all briefly mentioned this early on, but there's times where people think student disability services, I don't need those services, right? They may know something about themselves and have some sort of evaluation to say that they could use services. I think a lot of the stories I hear from high school counselors are students in high school have an IEP specifically, but when they're going to college and they're saying to the counselor, I don't want any help when I go to college, right? And whatever that means to that person, I don't want any help. So what range of students are you offering services to and able to provide resources to here at the university?
So I would say to that, and there are a lot of big differences between the K-12 environment with the IEP and the college environment accommodation plan. The students have a lot of control over who knows they have a disability, who gets access to the information of what types of accommodations they have. So we serve all kinds. We have mental health disabilities, we have physical disabilities, we have learning disorders, the autism spectrum disorders, we have traumatic brain injury, we have all different types of needs. And each person gets kind of an individualized look at what issues do you specifically have in the academic arena and how can we mitigate that for you. And so as the students come in to the college setting, there are some major differences in terms of the students have to self-identify to us. We don't go seeking you out. We're not going to, call you out in the hallway and say, you seem like I
haven't seen you before.
Right, if you choose to come to us, then we're gonna get you registered with us and we're gonna work with you. Each semester, students go in and they have to request specific faculty notification letters, which means if you're in a class and you don't need accommodations for that class, Nobody has to know you have an accommodation plan. But if you have a different class where you're like, wow, I really need extended time for this test, or it's a particular thing about that class that you do need to use your accommodations, then you can use them for that class. So you pick and choose when you need to implement your plan. So that's a big plus. And what we always say to students is it is really better if you go ahead and have your accommodations in place, use them when you need them, don't when you don't, but know that if you don't have your accommodation plan set up with us and you get halfway through your semester and you realize you should have had them, we can't go back and implement them later, like retroactively. So it's better to have them in place, use them when you need them, and don't when you don't, than it is to just think, oh, I got this, I'm on my own, I'm not gonna need it. So we really encourage students to go ahead and get in there, be proactive, get signed on with us, and then if you find you don't need them, don't use them.
Right. That's awesome. What are some examples of, just for people out there that are curious, of accommodations for students?
So accommodations, again, they are reviewed and determined on an individualized basis. However, accommodations can range from testing, extended time, distraction-reduced testing environment, formula sheets, word processors, the list goes on and on.
Note-taking software.
In the classroom,
interpreting,
yes.
Interpreting and remote captioning services, captioned media.
On our website, because the question is, what is different about K through 12 and what does college offer? We have compiled a list of potential accommodations under our Getting Started tab.
Nice.
It is important to note, just because that accommodation is requested, we make sure that as we're reviewing, it makes sense for the student.
Nice. Okay, another question.
All right, so switching gears back to admissions for a second, can you please go over the admissions requirements, what they'll be for spring 21?
Yeah, sure. So for spring 21, where if you're a new student applying to the institution, for the matter of fact, right now for the entire 2021, what we call internally a cycle, but for you, the application period. So if you're applying for spring 2021 or summer 2021 or fall 2021, and you're an incoming freshman, we're going to need to see your high school transcript, and we're going to ultimately determine an academic GPA that's calculated by KSU admissions. We only look at the 5 core subject areas for you. So that's math, science, social science, foreign language, and English. So after we've looked at your 5 core subject areas, calculated your KSU academic GPA or admissions GPA, then we're going to look at test scores. So right now, the University System of Georgia, we are requiring, according to the University System of Georgia, we are requiring test scores for 2021. That's for spring, summer, or fall. So if you've yet to be able to test on the SAT or the ACT, please sign up for the next available SAT or ACT date if you're specifically looking to come for spring 2021, because that one's going to be coming up before too long. If we have any additional information that will come out, we will post that on our website. That will be part of the coronavirus website, so that will be accessible to you. But for right now, we're requiring test scores and we're requiring GPA. On the test scores specifically, before this whole COVID thing blew up, right? We were looking at, like for fall 2029, we're only looking at the subsection scores of the SAT or the ACT. So on the SAT, we're only looking at the math and then the evidence-based reading and writing. We're not looking at the total score. And then on the ACT, we're looking at the math the math and the English or reading score. No longer the composite score. So this is something that we removed for the fall 2019 cycle because it really wasn't a good indicator of students being successful at KSU. We knew certain sub-scores meant that the student had a higher likelihood of being successful at the institution. So we've stuck with those sub-scores. Those are available on our website under the admissions requirements. So if you want to see the specific scores, like for instance with ACT, it's an 18 across the board, 18 on the math, 18 on the English, or 18 on the reading. So make sure you look at those things. If it's the SAT, it's a 500 on the evidence-based reading and writing, and it's a 490 on the math. So make sure you take a look at those requirements.
It's also important to note if you are a tester for an SAT or ACT and would like to seek accommodations, go on their website. You must request accommodations before you schedule the testing.
And if I remember correctly, you need to do it pretty far in advance. That way you can get it. I don't think the late registration that they approve accommodations pretty regularly. So request early, schedule in advance, right? And plus they're usually on Saturdays from like 8 until noon, and then you can have fun the rest of the day to unwind after taking these horrible tests. Yeah, cool. So thinking a little more about when students are thinking about coming to KSU or they're at KSU, does SDS help students with accommodations for housing, so if they're going to live on campus, or accommodations for things like parking as well, things like that?
Okay, so housing, yes. What we do is if you need accommodations for anything on KSU in terms of housing or academics, extracurriculars, things like that, then you will register with SDS through our intake process. And then we have a relationship with housing, and we have a process that we go through that looks at what possible housing accommodations can look like. And we have a form that we fill out, and we work with them and make sure that the housing accommodations are in place. Parking is actually not our purview. That is based on whether or not you have an accessible parking tag, so the handicap parking sticker. And that can be obtained through the tag office of your local, where you live, your tag office. And there's a form that you have to get your medical provider to sign. And if you have that, then you can park at any of the accessible spaces on campus. But that's actually not our purview.
With y'all. There you go. Easy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Another question we get a lot in admissions is, can students have emotional support animals or service animals on campus? So going to class as well as in housing. If they're going to live in housing. Sorry, I should say it that way.
Yes, so service animals. Service animals are permitted wherever their handler goes on campus. There are a few restrictions, but as you plan your schedule, we will let you know, because the health and safety of the service animal and the handler and the surrounding area are all taken into effect. But service animals are allowed. There is no requirement to register with our office for a service animal. However, it is strongly recommended that you do register. Our office can provide you with a service animal ID tag that can be presented if you are approached out and about on campus. Emotional support animals are only permitted in housing. It's important to know that our office does collaborate with university housing frequently. So if you are approved for an emotional support animal, we will make sure to relay this information to housing prior to you bringing your support animal onto campus.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but students can have specific emotional support animals, right? Like I can't bring a bald eagle as my emotional support animal.
Emotional support animals are any animals that are legally available to Georgia residents. Fun fact, those small little turtles that you get at the beach, those are not legal to own in Georgia.
That is a fun fact.
And
what about my
do
bald
not
eagle?
qualify. Nope.
Probably not. No, I don't think that's legal in any state. So.
I don't think you can own those.
Nope.
There could be some federal limitations
Yeah,
to
I
that
think I'd
one.
be in big trouble. I do not have a bald eagle. Facebook land.
Somebody might need to check him out.
I'm not that outdoorsy that I could even, one, catch one, or B, maintain keeping one alive. So don't have a bald eagle. Okay. I should have said an owl. I mean, that would make way more sense.
An owl,
but-
also illegal to own, but
Yeah. Okay, so none of those, and no small turtles.
No small
but
turtles.
Some other animals. Great. Okay, cool. I have a curveball question. All right, I know. That's why I'm telling you ahead of time. How did both of you come to work in student disability services?
That's a great question. For me, I'm
Katie go.
actually an alumni of KSU Marietta Campus's architecture program.
Hooty hoo, how cool.
Yeah, my focus with the architecture program was with sensory integration into built environments. I was a federal work study student in the Office of Disability Services, so I really was drawn to assisting diverse populations of students. So after getting my degree, I went forth for my master's in rehabilitative counseling at Georgia State University, and here we are 10 and a half years later.
That's awesome.
So for me, I work specifically with the deaf and hard of hearing population, and when I was in college, my undergrad degree was in communication sciences and disorders, which is for audiology, speech pathology, and deaf education. And a friend of mine in college was deaf, and she always had her interpreter with her. And I thought, man, that's a really cool career. And so when I got my bachelor's, I went back to school, became a nationally certified interpreter. And I worked in the K-12 environment for a little while, and kind of progressed into the higher education environment. And I've been in the field for 18 years, and I just love it. I love being able to build bridges between folks who wouldn't normally be able to communicate, and to create access for students who don't always get the opportunity to be fully engaged in the classroom.
And Bono, we were talking earlier, but you had mentioned specifically some work that you were doing with students that were deaf and hard of hearing because of COVID-19, because of this shift to online. What has that meant for those students? Would you talk a little bit about what you've had to do to help students, especially in this shift because of COVID-19?
Right, so with COVID-19, I think one of the things that our department has talked a lot about is that it's kind of highlighted the need for accessibility in online learning environment. And it has kind of shown us where some of those gaps are. And for things like needing a screen reader, for students with vision loss who might not be able to access the visual information that's being provided, for students who are deaf or hard of hearing who may not be able to hear all of the information that's coming. And so one of the things that it has created is an opportunity for us to have a lot of conversations with faculty, with UITS, with lots of different folks in terms of how do we create content on the front end that's accessible, and how can we use elements of universal design so that the content that we're picking and the things that we're providing are already as accessible as they can be, so that any student can pop in and out of any class at any time. And so it's kind of created a new awareness and an opportunity for a lot of good conversation in terms of how are we living up to our Owl Nation value of including everyone in all of our in all of our community, whether it be academics or other pieces of the community. And so in that way, it's been a fun challenge. We've had to think creatively, but we've also had an opportunity to really hold ourselves accountable for our values and our joy of diversity that we have here.
Right, right. Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that, really, because, I mean, nothing will cause us to innovate quite like a challenge like this, right?
Yes.
So it sounds like y'all have been doing a
Agreed.
lot of work and a lot of good work, and
We're
we
trying.
thank you so much for it. Yeah, thank you. I think we've got a question.
Awesome. So looking into the fall, is there a plan on how finals will be delivered next semester?
So for fall 2020, I do not know. So I can say very confidently that is not Jordan's world. So y'all may know a little better than I do, but no, I really do not know. I will direct you, like I said earlier, to go to coronavirus.kennesaw.edu. You'll be able to see things like how our academic calendar is going to look for this fall. And as soon as there's information about finals, that will be put on there as well. But mainly you're going to find that your finals are going to be talked about in your syllabi for all of your classes, right? So that's really up to faculty and the academic affairs side of the institution, depending on your course, the subject matter, and how a final has to be delivered for that course and specific subject matter. But I am confident that when you get into your classes, there will be information about finals within each course syllabus. Yes, so cool, awesome. Okay, trying to think of a really good question. I think it's one, I know it's on the website, right? Okay, so don't give me the website answer. No, so for students that are coming to our Kennesaw campus and our Marietta campus, we don't have a lot that are coming right now, but we're soon to have a lot coming very soon.
Yes.
Where can they find your physical offices?
Okay.
Not your personal offices, but the actual SDS offices.
That is a great question. For Marietta campus, we are located in the Joe Mack Wilson Student Center on the lower level across from Chick-fil-A. It is important to note that for fall semester, the best way to communicate with us is by email, sds@kennesaw.edu, because we are going to have some restrictions for interactions, because we understand and value that we're working with diverse, immune compromised. We want everyone to stay healthy. So we're present, we are in office, but feel free to email or call us first so that we can coordinate your visit.
And on the Kennesaw campus, we are in Kennesaw Hall. We're on the Bagwell side, and we are kind of right across from the education advising area, and it's suite 1205. We have another suite that's 1209, but our actual admins are in suite 1205.
That's the fun of that building.
Yeah,
that's really two buildings joined by a long hallway.
Right, unless you're on the second floor, in which case you have to go up either side of that building, depending on where you want to be.
So that actually makes me ask a question. For a student, if a student in a family, but a student particularly coming to campus, going to go to the Kennesaw location, where should they park? What's the closest way in, the quickest way in?
Probably at the east deck on the second level. There are actually some wheelchair accessible spaces there. And then it's probably the easiest spot.
Go all the way around to the other side, like to Bagwell?
Well, but if you come in on the convocation side, you can just go straight down the hall.
So just go down the hall and eventually take a right.
Yeah, we're the next to last room on the right.
Yeah. All right, cool. So do that.
So if you go in the convocation center side, straight down the hall, we're about the second to last room on the right.
Yeah. I'm really working on, so this is my grand plan, right? This will be Jordan's crowning achievement at KSU. But when you leave the east deck, you walk out on this really cool, they're almost like bricks, but it's a walkway between the rec center and convocation as you head towards the green. Beautiful part of campus, right? So we love our tours launch from there. They park in the east deck on the top deck so you can see everything's really pretty, right? And I want a yellow brick road there, right? But for us, it's gold, right? So no, it's not the yellow brick road of the Wizard of Oz. It's gold, the gold brick road of KSU. I want golden brick as you walk. Because right now it's almost gold. It's like the tannish KSU color. It's almost gold. So I'm just throwing this out there in the Facebook land because I know my boss watches this, and then she'll put in the word. And
Right, that'll go like wildfire.
A golden pathway. So we'll do this for SDS. Just follow the golden pathway, cut up to Convocation, take a left into Kennesaw Hall, and go all the way into the end. Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
Boom. There we are.
Okay. All right. That's what I'm going to work on. So this would help students. It's wayfinding.
well, keep
It's
us
going to help
posted,
them. It's going to help them. Yeah. This is a good thing. Could see we have a lot of fun. I told them we had a lot of fun on Facebook Live before we really got going. So what are some outreach efforts that your office does to inform new students that are coming to campus, or arguably current students, about your services? We've talked about the website. We've talked about where they can find your location on campus, but people may not be watching this Facebook Live, right? So when students get to campus, if they've never heard of you, how are y'all doing outreach about what you offer at the institution?
Well, it's kind of a balancing act because a lot of students with disabilities don't necessarily want to be identified. So part of the work that we do, and Katie, if I'm stepping on your toes here, sorry. But part of the work that we do is that we really try to increase awareness in general. We try to get in front of faculty and help them to know that if they have a student that's struggling, that they can refer them to us. We try to work with events across campus and make them accessible so that they realize, oh, they are thinking of people with disabilities here. They do want us to feel included. They do want us to be part of these events. And so a lot of times events will have, if you need accommodations for this event, please contact so-and-so. Orientation is a good example. We have worked very closely with them, and they, as they transitioned to online, they worked really hard on making it accessible. And they have a way, they remind students, if you have a disability and you need accommodations for orientation, and they give them our contact information so that we can kind of do that. And another thing that we do is that we try to go to high schools and go to their informational fairs and some of their transition fairs, and just try to kind of talk to them as they're transitioning, and trying to get people in that transitional time as much as we can. I know we went to almost all the schools in Cobb County last spring before we stopped being here, just to talk to all the deaf and hard of hearing students. And we've talked to anybody that we can get a hold of, that we can do their transition fairs and just kind of be available. We make ourselves available at all of the resource fairs and those types of events as well.
Awesome. That's cool.
We've also recently joined in with the 21st century. We have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
Oh, big time. That's a lot of work.
We did it.
Nice. TikTok? Snapchat?
Not
We didn't
yet.
go that far.
Okay.
Too far.
Yeah.
We
You're
might
in
need
the
a couple
21st century.
pointers.
Say what?
We might need a couple pointers.
Yeah, we've got some great people like Rachel over here who can help you out. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, we have more questions.
Awesome.
All right, so we have two questions. The first one is for SDS. Can you talk a little bit about opportunities for student peers to work with students in your program, such as note-taking or tutoring and things like that?
Oh, that's awesome.
We do use peer note takers. And so for students who need note-taking assistance in their class, we will send emails out to the class and say, there's a student in your class who has a disability and needs note-taking assistance. We never divulge the student's name, so again, we're very careful with the confidentiality piece. And so what we do there is kind of pair the notes and the students on the back end, and so the student will upload their notes, and then the student with the disability can access those notes. And that is one way that is a huge help that we connect students. And
We
then-
also like to utilize technologies if and when able. So we have Livescribe Pens, we have audio note-taking software that put the control in the students' hands. That way they can go back and review audio and visual information versus a peer's notes in their tone.
What is a Livescribe Pen? I mean, I know English well enough to know what it is, but what is a Livescribe Pen?
So a Livescribe pen, it is very discreet. It's only a little larger than a standard pen. You utilize special paper, and when you are writing, it is audio recording what is being said. For the students who prefer to draw and doodle instead of take notes, they can draw and doodle as long as the pen is on the paper, you're capturing that audio.
Wow, that is so cool. I've never heard of this. How neat. Okay, very cool.
All right, awesome. So thinking towards getting ready to come to campus, what are some options students have for seeing campus, like campus tours?
Oh yeah, good question. Very good question. So right now, we're open as a campus. So I want to say this. You're more than welcome to come and walk around the Kennesaw campus or the Marietta campus. So if you're just looking for something to do on a beautiful Saturday, hopefully morning, so you're not going to roast your tail off on a Saturday afternoon, as it is getting hot now.
July.
I'm reminded every time I get in my car now how hot it is. But you know, if you want to come to campus and walk around yourself, we actually have a self-guided tour option on our website that we can share with you. We can actually pop it here into the Facebook Live, and that way that link exists, and that will help guide you around campus. We also have, if you don't feel like coming to campus and walking around, or maybe you live long ways away from here, we have a brand new, and I'm going to call it the world's greatest virtual tour. So I'm just going to throw that out there. In my opinion, it is the world's greatest virtual tour. This is something that we worked very hard on. We were working on before COVID-19. So before it was a twinkle in our eyes, we were working on our experience virtual tour. So if you go to our admissions website or you go to the visit website, either visit.kennesaw.edu or admissions.kennesaw.edu, you can get to our virtual campus tour. And you can see either the Kennesaw campus or the Marietta campus, and it is highly interactive. So we put a lot of people behind it, a lot of creative people from Strategic Communications did some phenomenal work. You get some 3D views inside of buildings, a lot of content there, video content, fun, exciting things. So check out our new virtual tour. It's been out for roughly a month and a half. I lose track of time right now. I think it's mid-July or early July. I don't know what date it is. But a little over a month and a half, and it is phenomenal. So take the virtual tour. If you're looking for information, much like what we're providing here today, but you want to learn more in depth about the university, about admissions, about getting ready to go to college, we are offering virtual information sessions almost every single day of the week. We're doing a lot of these Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives and things like that. Mind you, I have an Instagram Live tomorrow, so join my Instagram Live. It'll be, I think, at 3. I think that's the time. Rachel, do you remember? I think it's at 3. Yeah, it's at 3. 3 o'clock, Instagram Live. I'll be on by myself, so get on there, chat with me. So we're doing those, but we're also doing Zoom sessions. We have just general Zoom sessions that are information sessions on admissions and on the university. We also have student specific. So if you're a transfer student and you're wanting to know more specifics about transfer, or you're an international student and you want to know specifically about international students. Matter of fact, there was a big thing that came out this week about international students. Join one of those sessions. So we have one for transfer and adult learners. We also have one for international students. And then we have a big, large general session. We have admissions counselors on there and some of our directors on there to answer your questions. So we're offering those right now as well. And then we're planning for the fall. So we're working on some creative ideas for how to do things virtually, and then we're hopefully gonna, let me knock on wood, and find a way to actually look at people in the face. Sometimes they're gonna be much smaller and in a socially distanced way, but hopefully going to be able to offer some in-person things this fall as well. So more information coming about those types of events. Soon as things are available, we post them on our visit website, visit.kennesaw.edu, and you also get them there on the admissions website. Just watch out for those things. Cool. We good? Awesome. We have a few minutes left, so I always like to ask this question. Two questions. I lied. One, is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to make sure people know about student disability services or anything in general?
Man, I mean, we covered a lot, I think, and you know, I would just say that, you know, our website is a really great resource. There are a lot of questions that can be answered there. And then I would just say, if you need services, don't be afraid to just get signed on with us. We really work to keep confidentiality. We work to do things within the bounds of what you need. And we really care about creating an even playing field for students, and we care about making sure that this is an inclusive place. And so any opportunity that we can have to work with students to help you feel more included in this community, that's what we want to be able to do. So
That's awesome. Well said.
And another fun fact, disability is the largest minority group out there. So it is the only group that an individual can join at any time based on circumstances. And 1 in 10 students in college could qualify for accommodations if they reached out and networked with our office.
Wow. Thank y'all so much for being here today.
happy to.
Thank you for the
having us.
work that you do. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about yourselves and your stories and how you got into this field and serving students. We will make sure your website is posted here on Facebook Live.
Great.
We're going to make sure to send all the questions your way, but we're going to ask that people start with the Getting Started tab. So number one thing today, make sure you go to the Getting Started tab on the SDS website. So thank y'all so much again. We always finish with a hooty hoo and owl eyes. So normally we would connect them, but we can't do that right now, unfortunately. So make your own owl eyes and hooty hoo, and then we're going to close. We just all say hooty hoo together. Okay,
All
ready?
right.
1, 2, 3.
Hooty hoo.